Hey, freshmen, welcome to the basement. Today, we're going to go over Romeo and Juliet, Act 2, Scene 4. We just have two more acts to do, or two more scenes to do, sorry, two more scenes in Act 2. We're going to be making the same annotations. And remember that in Scene 3, Romeo went and talked to Friar Lawrence to secure the priest and the church and to get this wedding going. And now he just needs to go talk to the nurse and tell her when to tell Juliet, when the marriage is going to happen. So, almost there. So we start on a street. I would imagine it's probably the same like town square that we were in Act 1, Scene 1, when the big fight happened. But we have this little, street, and we have Benvolio and Mercutio, and this is the next morning. So this is around 9 o'clock, right? Because that's when Romeo said he would meet with the nurse. And so around nine-ish, and they're coming back together. They've gone to sleep for a while, and the boys are back. So Mercutio, where the devil should this Romeo be? Actually, let's make a note for ourselves. We're gonna make a comment box. I want it to be blue. There we go. So let's make a comment box right here just to remind ourselves that this is 9 in the morning, time for Romeo. And Romeo to meet up with the nurse. All right, cool. And we're going to make a comment right here. Mercutio says, where the devil should this Romeo be? Came he not home tonight? So we're going to say, Mercutio and Benvolio are angry with Romeo because he left them last night. They also think that he is still in love with Rosaline. Because remember, they didn't see any of this love at first sight thing. They were not privy to that. So Benvolio, not as his fathers, I spoke with his man. He's talking about Romeo's servant. That same pale, hard-hearted wench, that Rosaline, torments him so that he will sure run mad. Tybalt, the kinsman of old Capulet, hath sent a letter to his father's house. We're going to mark that. We're going to mark that one in orange because this is plot points. So we're going to then also comment on it. And we're going to say this letter is a challenge to a duel. Romeo versus Tybalt. Tybalt is angry about what happened at the party last night. So pretty quick that he was able to send a challenge out, right? Their postal service must work really, really well. He probably just sent it with a servant or something like that. So a challenge on my life. Romeo will answer it. Any man that can write may answer a letter. Nay, he will answer the letter's master how he dares being dared. So they're saying Romeo is the second best swordsman in Verona. Yeah, he's going to be up for a duel. Alas, poor Romeo, he is already dead, stabbed with a white wench's black eye, shot through the ear with a love song, the very pin of his heart cleft with the blind bow boy's butt shaft. And he is a man to encounter Tybalt? So he says, yeah, he'll answer it, but is Romeo going to be able to handle this duel? Because he's already been wounded. And who's wounded him? Cupid, right? The blind bow boy is Cupid. And so he's like, I don't know if Romeo's going to be able to deal with this, right? Why? What is Tybalt? More than Prince of Cats, I can tell you. Oh, he is the courageous captain of compliments. He fights as you sing prick song, keeps time, distance, and proportion. Rest me his minimum rest. 1, 2, and the third in your bosom. The very butcher of a silk button, a duelist, a gentleman of the very first house, of the first and second cause. Ah, the immortal passato, the punto reverso, the high. The what? The pox of such antic, lisping, affecting fascinatios. This new tuner of accents, by Jesu, a very good blade, a very tall man, a very good whore. Why is not this a lamentable thing, grandsire, that we should be thus afflicted with these strange flies, these fashion mongers, these perdonamies, who stand so much on the new form that they cannot at ease on the old bench? Oh, their bones, their bones. Now, I've seen this played, this interaction between Mercutio and Benvolio, where they're kind of pretending fighting. They did that a lot in the Leonardo DiCaprio version of Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. I think that, maybe that makes sense. But Romeo shows up, right? Because he has to meet with the nurse. And Benvolio sees him. Here comes Romeo. Here comes Romeo. Without his roe, like a dried herring, flesh, flesh, how art thou fishified? Now is he for the numbers that Petrarch flowed in? Laura to his lady was but a kitchen wench. Mary, she had a better love to be rhyme her. Ditto a dowdy, Cleopatra a gypsy, Helen and Hero, Hildings and harlots, Thisbe a grey eye or so, but not to the purpose. Signor Romeo, bonjour! There's a French salutation to your French slop. You gave us the counterfeit fairly last night. Good morrow to you both. What counterfeit did I give you? The ship, sir, the slip. Can you not conceive? Pardon, good Mercutio, my business was great, and in such a case as mine, a man may strain courtesy. That's as much as to say such a case as yours constrains a man to bow in the hands, meaning to curtsy. Thou hast most kindly hit it. A most courteous exposition? Nay, I'm the very pink of courtesy. Pink for flower. So they're going back and forth. And Romeo is making fun of Mercutio. And that's what Mercutio wants. He remembers the good times when Romeo and Mercutio used to hang out. And Romeo wasn't so worried with girls. And he wasn't all, hurt inside and feeling all down because he didn't have a girlfriend. He likes this Romeo better. He likes this back and forth. Pink for flower? Right. Then is my pump well flowered? Well said. Follow me this jest now till thou hast worn out thy pump, that when the single soul of it is worn, the jest may remain after the wearing soul singular. O single soul jest solely singular for the singleness. Come between us, good Benvolio, my wits faint. So they're like, playing with each other. Switch and spurs, or I'll cry a match. Nay, if thy wits run the wild goose chase, I have done, for thou hast more of the wild goose in one of thy wits than I am sure I have in my whole 5. Was I with you there for the goose? Thou wast never with me for anything when thou wast not there for the goose. I will bite thee by the ear for that jest. Nay, good goose, bite not. Thy wit is the very bitter sweeting. It is the most sharp sauce, and it is not well served into a sweet goose. Oh, here's a wit of Cheveril that stretches from an inch narrow to L broad. I stretch it out for that word broad, which added to the goose proves thee far and wide a broad goose. Why is this not better now than groaning for love? Now art thou sociable, now art thou Romeo, now thou art what thou art, by art as well as by nature, for this driveling love is like a great natural that runs lolling up and down to hide this bauble in a hole. We're going to mark some of that. So this is some good plot stuff. So Mercutio is saying what we've been kind of saying before. They like this Romeo better than the Romeo that's like, oh, I'm so in love. I just want Rosalind, or I just want Juliet. They're like, we want you to be normal, Romeo. What is going on with you? So Benvolio, stop there. Thou desirest me to stop in my tail against the hair. Thou wouldst have made thy tail large. Oh, thou art deceived. I would have made it short. For I was to come to the whole depth of my tail, and meant indeed to occupy the argument no longer. Romeo says, here's goodly gear. So now the nurse and Peter, remember Peter is the nurse's servant. The Capulets are so rich that their servants have servants. So she comes walking in, and usually the nurse is played as a larger woman, right? Has a little weight on her. And so they're going back and forth. Mercutio and Romeo are teasing each other. They're making fun of each other. They're making jabs. and they see this nurse. And so normally what they would do on a day like this is they would make fun of people in the town square. So that's what they do. So Mercutio sees the nurse and he goes, a sail, making fun of her weight. And Benvolio says, two, a shirt and a smock. Nurse, Peter, anon, my fan, Peter. Good Peter, to hide her face, for her fans the fairer face. So we're going to write a note right here just to remind ourselves. That's messed up. He's calling her fat and ugly. Okay, so Romeo and Mercutio are teasing the nurse. Romeo is acting differently when he is around his friends. So the nurse comes up to him. God ye good morrow, gentlemen. God ye good den, fair gentlewoman. Is it good den? 'Tis no less, I tell you, for the body hand of the dial is now upon the prick of noon. Which I don't understand that line because it's supposed to be 9 a.m. It's not the prick of noon. Out upon you, what a man are you? One, gentlewoman, that God hath made for himself to mar. By my troth, it is well said, for himself to mar, quoth a gentleman. Can any of you tell me where I may find the young Romeo? I can tell you, but young Romeo will be older when you have found him than he was when you sought him. I am the youngest of that name, for fault of a worse. You say well. Yea, is the worst well? Very well took I faith wisely. If you be he, sir, I desire some confidence with you. She will indict him to some supper. Abad, so ho! So then they're having this problem because the nurse is there on very serious business, and Mercutio just wants to play, and Romeo needs to go talk to her, but he also wants to impress his friends. Because remember, it's a secret. They're getting married, and it's a secret. No one's supposed to know. What hast thou found? No hair, sir, unless a hair, sir, in a Lenten pie that is something stale and hoar ere it be spent. And then he sings, an old hare whore and an old hare whore is very good meat in Lent, but a hare that is whore is too much for a score when it's whores ere it be spent. Romeo, will you come to your father's? Will to dinner thither? And Romeo's walking away with the nurse says, I will follow you. And Mercutio ends it, farewell, ancient lady, farewell, lady. So then Mercutio and Benvolio leave, right? It's an odd scene that's going on. But now we have the nurse and Romeo and Peter on their own. And she gets kind of mad at him. And sometimes I've seen her like push him up against a wall or something. Marry farewell, I pray you, sir, what saucy merchant was this that was so full of his ropery? A gentleman, nurse, that loves to hear himself talk, and will speak more in a minute than he will stand to in a month. Aye, and speak a thing against me, I take him down, and I were lustier than he is, and 20 such jacks if I cannot. I'll find those that shall scurvy knave. I am none of his flirt gills, I am none of his skein mates, and thou must stand by too and suffer every nay to use me at his pleasure? She's mad at him because he wasn't defending her. I saw no man use you at pleasure. If I had, my weapon should quickly have been out, I warrant you. I dare draw as soon as another man, if I see occasion in a good quarrel and the law on my side. So Peter says he'll defend the nurse. Now afore God, I am so vexed that every part about me quivers, scurvy knave. Pray you, sir, a word, and as I told you, my young lady bade me inquire you out. What she bade me say I will keep to myself, but first let me tell you, if you should lead her into a fool's paradise, as they say, it were a very gross kind of behavior, as they say, for the gentlewoman is young. And therefore, if you should deal double with her, truly it were an ill thing to be offered to any gentlewoman, and very weak dealing. So we're going to make a comment right here. So what she's saying is, if you hurt Juliet, I will hurt you. She's like, if you're playing around with Juliet, then you need to stop. Okay. Nurse, commend me to thy lady and mistress. I protest unto thee, good heart and eye faith, I will tell her as much. Lord, she will be a joyful woman. What wilt thou tell her, nurse? Thou dost not mark me. He's saying, you didn't listen. I will tell her, sir, that you do protest, which as I take it as is a gentlemanlike offer. So now here's the thing. Bid her devise some means to come to Shrift this afternoon, and there she shall at Friar Lawrence's cell be shrived and married. Here is for thy pains. So we're going to mark some stuff up here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to underline Shrift right here, Shrift. And we're going to go ahead and make a comment off of Shrift. And Shrift equals confession, usually held in the afternoon. So remember, they're Catholic. And so they have confession, and you can go and confess your sins to a priest, and you can do it every single afternoon. So then we're going to highlight this stuff in orange because it's some good, back it up. It's some good plot stuff, right? So we're going to highlight up to Shrift, and then after Shrift, maybe, here we go, after Shrift. Okay, so what he's saying, the marriage is going to be today. Today, holy moly, this is going so fast. She says, come to Friar Lawrence's cell. The excuse that you're going to give to your family is that you're going to confession. And then you will go to Friar Lawrence's cell and will be married during the time of confession. So he says, here's for thy pains. He tries to give her money. No, truly, sir, not a penny. Go to, I say you shall. This afternoon, sir? Well, she shall be there. And stay, good nurse, behind the abbey wall within this hour. My man shall be with thee, and bring thee cords made like a tackled stair, which to the high-top gallant of my joy must be my convoy in the secret night. Farewell, be trusty, and I'll quit my pains. Farewell, commend me to thy mistress. So we're going to highlight some stuff again right here. And then we are going to highlight this as well in orange. And we're going to go and we're going to make a comment right here. So he says, while we're being married during confession, I want you to go around the back of the church, and my servant, Balthazar, will be there with cords made like a tackle stair. What he means is a rope ladder. Cords made like a tackle stair, that's a rope ladder. And so we're going to write that down. While we are getting married, comma, nurse, I need you to stay behind the church to get a rope ladder from my servant Balthazar. Now, some people say, well, why do they need a rope ladder, right? Well, he needs a rope ladder to be able to get into Juliet's room that night. Now, it is absolutely what you think, okay? In this time period, when a person got married, they had to have sex because that meant that the marriage was official. It's called consummating the marriage. So you go and you do the ceremony in the church. That's half of it. And then later, you have to go and have sex with your spouse to consummate the marriage. And there was times in those old days where people would not consummate the marriage, and then it was like the marriage never happened. And so it was a way for them to get out of the marriage if it didn't work out. So a lot of times you would be forced to marry somebody, or you would marry somebody for a political alliance. Like the King of England and the King of France would marry their children. But if they never consummate the marriage, then the marriage isn't official. So we're going to write down Romeo needs the rope ladder so he can climb up into Juliet's bedroom that night and consummate the marriage. In this time period, two people weren't truly married until they had sex. Okay, that's what he has to do. The nurse. Now God's in heaven bless thee, hark you, sir. What sayest thou, my dear nurse? Is your man secret? Did you ne'er hear say, two may keep counsel, putting one away? She's concerned. Can Balthazar keep a secret? I warrant thee my man's as true as steel. Well, sir, my mistress is the sweetest lady. Lord, Lord, when 'twas a little prating thing, oh, there is a nobleman in town, one Paris, that would fain lay knife aboard. So she's warning him about Paris right here. Oh, just so you know, there is this dude named Paris that also has an interest in Juliet, right? Nurse warning Romeo about Paris. Okay. Oh, just so you know. So this is some foreshadowing right there. But she, good soul, had a leaf see a toad, a very toad as see him. I anger her sometimes and tell her that Paris is the properer man. But I'll warrant you, when I say so, she looks as pale as any clout in the versal world. Doth not Rosemary and Romeo both begin with a letter? Ay, nurse, what of that? Both with an R. Ah, mocker, that's the dog's name. R is for the... No, I know it begins with some other letter. She hath the prettiest sensations of it, and you and Rosemary, that it would do you good to hear it. So she's saying, I like you. It's okay. Like, Paris is probably the better match, but I'm going to let this happen. I'm going to keep it secret. Commend me to thy lady. Aye, 1,000 times. So now exit Romeo. Peter, anon. Peter, take my fan and go before and pace. And a pace. So that's the end of scene 4. So everything's set up. We're all ready to go. Scene 5 is where we actually are going to have, we're going to get ready for the wedding. We don't actually get to see the wedding, but right before it. So the secret wedding is going to happen. So go ahead and do your annotating for our motifs. We are definitely going to have some past against the future because we have an old character and a young character and they're coming to blows. So do a lot of that. Not a lot of futility of fighting fate and no light versus dark, but just past against the future. So go ahead and look for those. And I'll see you next time when we will finish Act 2. Bye.